Hi, my name is Lori and I'm 28 years old. My story begins from the time I met Fred, the guy who I was supposed to marry. I met Fred through a mutual friend, and we dated for a few years. He was kind, caring, smart, and good-looking, with a bright career ahead of him. In short, he was nearly perfect. I really liked him, and I thought that I could never find anyone better than him. Of course, that was my delusion. A few months ago, Fred and I decided to get married after dating for so long. I was so excited and happy about the whole thing. I even used up all my savings to buy my clothes and pay the wedding planners. Fred contributed too, but he wasn't in a good place financially because of his mom's recent surgery, so I didn't want to put too much pressure on him. I invited my best friend Amy to be my bridesmaid. She was my childhood friend, and no matter what we did or where we went, we always would keep in touch. "Oh my God, I am so happy for you, Lori," she exclaimed, hugging me enthusiastically as soon as she arrived. "Although I can't believe you're getting married before me," she teased. I shrugged with a smile. It just happened. Amy helped me a lot with all the wedding preparation and shopping. One day, Fred invited us over to his house so that he could meet and thank Amy in person for all of her help. But as soon as his eyes landed on Amy, he was starstruck. He gaped at her for a few seconds before blinking. "I have seen you somewhere," he said to Amy. "Are you by any chance the famous model who's featured everywhere from magazines to newspapers?" "Oh, damn, you recognize me," Amy laughed. "To be honest, I'm not that famous. But yeah, I'm a model." "Wow, Lori, you never told me that you were friends with such a rich and famous person," Fred said to me. "I did mention her a few times," I replied. "I guess you weren't paying attention. But anyway, you finally met her. Isn't she wonderful?" Fred nodded. "Wonderful is an understatement. She is one of the top 5 highest paid models right now." "I know, right?" I smiled proudly. "But that comes with big drawbacks. She keeps gifting me expensive stuff even though I've scolded her so many times not to do that." "Come on, if not, then who else am I going to spend my money on?" Amy laughed. "Right," Fred said. "Lori, you're too ungrateful. Just keep quiet and accept whatever she gives you." I frowned at him. That was a bit rude. Amy glanced at him uncomfortably before letting out a nervous chuckle to diffuse the tension. We started discussing the wedding plans, and after that, everything else was forgotten. However, 2 days later, Amy called me to reveal something surprising. "Lori, I don't know how to say this, but Fred's been calling and texting me daily to meet with him," she said hesitantly. "Do you know about this?" "No, I don't," I replied. "I think he's a big fan of yours and just wants to meet you to talk about the whole modeling thing. Don't worry, you can meet him, I won't mind." Yep, that was how much I trusted Fred. After all, we dated for years, and it never once crossed my mind that something could be off. And we were about to get married, for God's sake. It really wasn't the time to be doubting him. But it was a big mistake on my part to trust him so blindly. The day of the wedding finally arrived, and everything was happening so fast. One second, I was getting ready with Lori hyping me up, and the next, I was waiting in front of so many relatives. Yup, you heard that right. I was waiting. Fred was late to his own wedding. All eyes were on me for a half an hour. People started whispering. Lori," Amy came to my side. "I don't know if you're aware, but Fred got completely wasted last night. He was still passed out this morning. Maybe that's why he's late?" "How do you know?" I asked her. "Oh, Norman told me they were out together," she replied. Now, let me give you a little info on Norman. He was the mutual friend through whom I met Fred, and Norman was my childhood friend too. At some point, he started dating Amy and they were still in a relationship. Now, Norman was supposed to be Fred's best man, so I guess they were pretty close and would hang out together. All sorts of bad thoughts started going through my mind when suddenly Fred entered the venue. I sighed in relief, but that relief was short-lived because he walked up to me, and before I could say anything, he grabbed Amy's hand. "I'm sorry, Lori," Fred said without any shame. "I can't marry you. You're too plain and poor for my taste. Our lives would be ruined if we go through with this wedding. Besides, I like Amy," he said, turning to face Amy. "I know this is sudden, but I've been her biggest fan for a long time, and my admiration turned into something more when I actually got to meet her." Amy glanced at me horrified. "Lori, this is—" I raised a hand to stop her, trying not to break down then and there. "Please, leave." My voice came out unstable. "Everyone, leave." Amy shook off Fred's hold on her hand and walked away. Fred followed after her. Slowly, everyone was gone. I don't know what happened after that. Maybe my parents brought me home, or maybe I got back myself? I don't remember. But one day of sulking around was enough for me. If you're thinking that I was blaming Amy, then let me tell you, that was not the case. In fact, Amy had barged into my house the next day and we had cried together. But after all of that was over, we came up with a plan to give Fred a taste of his own medicine. Norman was a part of our plan too. It seemed like Fred had no idea that Amy was already in a relationship. Actually, I doubted he would have cared. He was so blinded by her name and her fame. As per our plan, Amy went out with him for a few weeks and made him believe that she liked him too. Fred must have been a real idiot to think that my best friend would betray me like that. Anyway, fast forward to a few weeks and they were planning their wedding. On the day of the wedding, Fred's eyes literally popped out of their sockets when he saw Amy walking down the aisle with me by her side. I smirked in satisfaction. He would finally feel what I felt that day that he humiliated me in front of everyone. He was about to open his mouth when we reached him, but he never got the chance. Norman came forward, and Amy declared that he was the guy she was going to marry. I snapped a photo of Fred's dropped jaw and waved it in front of him. "Last few weeks must have been so nice for you, as you were having the time of your life with Amy and leeching her money. Well, my only advice to you is that you should pay attention to the people around you. Maybe you would have noticed that Norman was dating Amy, and that she wasn't at all interested in you." The guests, the venue, the decoration, and the people were all the same. The only thing that changed was the circumstances. Now, I was not the girl who was left at the altar by her gold-digging fiancé. It was now him who was standing on the sidelines. As people pointed at him, they whispered with judgmental looks on their faces. I was thankful to have found his truth when I did. Otherwise, my life would have been ruined. And I was more than thankful to my friend Amy, who never turned her back on me.